Hello everyone and welcome to the 2020 Discraft Great Lakes Open. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy here at the Toboggan for this Disc Golf Pro Tour event. And we've got second round action coming to you with Chris Dickerson, Discraft's own Austin Hannum, Simon Lizotte, and again Discraft's Paul McBeth. We're at the famed Toboggan Course, as I mentioned, round number 2. Let's give you all of the action. And this action wouldn't be possible without the support of my Patreon subscribers. That's the only way this bonus footage gets to you. I gotta thank my pal Dustin and Dylan who were out there capturing the footage. And Chris Dickerson getting a little bit worked right away on the first hole. Oh, and the sign of a professional, working right through the honking car alarm. As you can see, we've got, after round number 1, Dickerson and Hannum tied at 8 under, Lizotte at 7, and McBeth also at 7. Good looking turnover. That turns just a bit much, but then pops out at the end. Little love there for Hannum. Simon Lizotte going with the backhand. He told me a few events ago that he really does everything he can to avoid throwing a sidearm. And that's just because he was experiencing a little bit of pain at the time. We'll see if we see any sidearms there. That one's out of bounds for Lizotte. Hole 1 during round 2 came in as the 6th most difficult hole on the course, averaging a flat 3. Like, not 3.01 or 2.99. 3 on the dot with 143 people playing it. Lizotte's got a long look here to try and save his par. And McBeth finds himself at about 35 feet, maybe just a step or two outside the circle. That was a weird wave to a fan. No, there's no fans out there. I'm just kidding. We see Dickerson checking the wind. A little bit of left to right for him. And a solid birdie. 17% of the field taking birdies here. 17% of the field taking bogeys or worse, and 66% of the field taking par. And after Hannum popped out on that back end, a little extra tree love, he finds himself in great position, takes advantage of it. And this card looks like it's going to give up a pair of birdies, a par, and what looks to be a Lizotte bogey to open things up. We're going to move over. Hole number 2, coming in at 726 feet. This is a par 4. You're looking to get somewhere right around, maybe about here, or up a little bit from there, but that is much longer than it gives you the impression of. And then you're playing up to the elevated basket that we find here on this green. And fun fact, during round 2, this actually played as the single most difficult hole on the course, coming in at 4.19. And that's really what you're looking to do on this first shot. If you pinch yourself up to the left or to the right, you not only are going to have an awkward run up, but you just may be out of position to try and get a good pull up the hill. And Austin is off on that left side. And this is a touchy play. And I say that because as that goes up onto the hillside and then it curls up into the right, it may very well take you out of position. I'm just not sure there's enough to gain by a few extra feet with a really good, well-executed roller, because being in position is absolutely paramount here. And Simon also not finding himself in a good position. And so when you're looking at any of the three players besides Chris Dickerson that are off of the fairway, it's going to make so much tougher of an approach here to try and get up to the pin. So Chris, as you can see, did not have the, well, he had the second longest drive of the group. Correction, second shortest drive is actually a better way to put it. And then running uphill, turns it over. And it looks like Paul's position on this right side of the fairway at least is maybe a little bit flatter. Yeah, that's absolutely, it's just incredible. The amount of power plus worrying about your feet. And there's Simon. I think we missed Simon's second shot to pitch him out into the fairway. So that was actually his third shot. And Chris is really just doing the same. He's got a pitch up as his third shot. Hannum's attempt is a little bit short. So you can see why this averaged where it did at 4.19. Only 8% of the field carding birdies here. McBeth being one of those 8%ers. And certainly what some would say is a slow start here for Simon Lizotte, taking the bogey to start and the par to follow up. Move over to the beautiful hole number 3, thanks to Zuka and all of their support and sponsorship. This is a par 4, 915 feet. You see that left side all out of bounds. Huge shout out to the Disc Golf Pro Tour drone operators. Not sure if that's Evan and or Sam or both, but amazing work, and Mo along with the additional graphics. McBeth saying that he slipped a little, got it up a little too high. Wow. Getting a little of that hillside love and keeping him in bounds. Dickerson trying not to bring that left side OB into play whatsoever. And you see the walled off area. That wall is just there for decoration. That does not indicate any kind of OB or hazard or anything of that nature. It's really there for advertising and decoration. Needs to sit. And it looks like Simon really lets off on that and playing for the accuracy as opposed to the power, but it says it's a PD2. From where Austin and the rest of the card is, when that disc comes to rest, there's a really good chance that you actually can't see just how close it is. So Austin doesn't even realize just how parked he is. And it looked like Simon's disc maybe even came in and hit off of Austin's there. This hole, of course, where Paul famously almost skipped it in for the eagle back a couple of years ago when he had the perfect round, or the 18 under, I should say. You guys can debate all day long if you want to consider that a perfect round because he had the par, but then had an eagle. That's a debate for another day. It was good, as I'd like to say. So, 4 great approaches. There's really not a lot to say about that other than just 4 nearly perfect approaches here. Big shout out, Dylan and Dustin out there, getting you this bonus coverage. Of course, my obligations are with the Disc Golf Pro Tour and doing the live sideline commentary and doing some other things. So to have a couple guys be able to go out and get additional footage for you guys, I'm just super happy we can bring it to you. And again, that's large in part to my Patreon subscribers. So thank you guys for the support. We move over to hole 4. This comes in at 580 feet. It is a par 4. You're trying to look to land right around there, somewhere around there, and then hopefully have a good look at approaching up to this basket, which is kind of perched on a little bit of a hillside or berm. And really just trusting a power hyzer is what the players need to do here on this first shot. You see Dickerson lining up on the left side as opposed to McBeth, who lines up on the right side of the tee pad here. And of course, as you're looking at them, both use various sides of the tee pad. They did indicate at the beginning of the round that you're welcome to use the tee pad, and then there was a designated distance out to those flags that could also be used. So if the rubber tee pad surface isn't your thing, for whatever reasons, in this case, you have the option to go left and right of the tees wherever those flags are marked. Good distance. You wish you were a little bit more to the right from where he landed, so you didn't have any trees to deal with. And we're seeing what I believe is Austin Hannum comes up and finishes on the downward left side. Or in this case, as you're looking at the basket, it'd be kind of short and right is actually where he ended up landing. Dickerson going to force that over, and it flexes back and just nearly perfectly executed. And Paul really just played what I think is the smartest play for all of these competitors. They kind of just want to throw it flat and straight into the side of the hill and kind of let it scoot up to the basket. Because otherwise, if you're coming in and you land at the basket and it's coming in hot, it's going to hit and then it's going to skip away and go back down one of the sides. Whereas a lot of the players, if you're in a really good position, you're coming in straight at the basket, coming up short of it, and then just letting it hit flat and then shoot up toward the pin, like we saw by McBeth. And Hannum's scramble to try and get the birdie isn't good.
Yeah. I thought his putt was good enough. Yeah, he made them all, but it looks so weird.
Beth and Lizotte both in for birdies. Dickerson looking to do the same. This comes in as the 14th most difficult, so relatively easy. Average 3.83, and we see the 3 birdies by the rest of the group and the lone par there by Austin Hannum. We're going to move over here to hole number 5. 11th most difficult, 300 feet on the dot, and it seems like you're really trying to come in just inside this tree and take the lane, whether you go this lane or scoot over, maybe this lane. It's a tight anhyzer to try and push all the way through. You can see even the drone was a little scared of the trees, which I fully understand. I think a lot of players will tell you that this feels like one of the most difficult lines to hit on this entire course. This averaged 2.9.
Come on, keep turning.
And not a great kick there for McBeth. And some would say, well, will we see a forehand here? And I don't think it's just the right angle for it. And I only say that because it seems like a lot of the players prefer kind of that stand up to turnover, or maybe even a forced over anhyzer, just with the way it finishes. And that looked really good by Lizotte. They all kind of wait with anticipation, maybe hold their breath. And here's a forehand by Hannum. We'll see if he... Okay, well, that looked good. And McBeth had kicked short and left here. So he's got a little bit of work to do. Actually, that looked like a pretty nasty kick to kick that far down. And as you can see, if you're a little bit out of position, it's tough to try and make up for it here. Solid run by Hannum. Lizotte just outside the circle. He's been off to a slow start. Maybe this can get things going a little bit more. Okay. Left corner pocket. That's for back-to-back birdies on 4 and 5 for Lizotte. And if you follow Chris Dickerson at all, you know just how deadly he is when he is just outside the circle. He's clearly great inside the circle, but that 35 to 42 or 45 foot range he's just absolutely deadly. Two birdies, 2 pars, 11th most difficult hole in the books. Move over to a par 4, hole number 6, the 12th most difficult hole. You're trying to get at least to this corner. If you're short of the corner, you're in a world of hurt. But you want to get to that corner, and if you can be perched on top of that hillside, that is the ideal place to be. But you got to make it to the corner, and if you cut it off too short, you may have a backhand hyzer look at it, and if you go too long and go past the corner, you can find yourself with being out of position, a little bit awkward as well. This tee shot is so crucial to setting you up. And although it looked like he cut the corner short, I think it's still going to work out just fine for him. Lizotte begging. He wasn't asking. He was begging for it to miss. And that is a great shot there by McBeth. Making the corner, pushing it up on the fairway, even a little bit more than that. And almost matching it perfectly is Hannum. Another great shot. And that's what I mean about being a little bit out of position when you got a great forehand. Like Dickerson, you can probably find ways to make up for it, but that's exactly what I was referring to. That's just kind of a weird angle to be able to attack this pin.
Oh, you're so good sometimes. Sick, dude. Honestly, I could do what Bob does from home.
Lizotte talking to himself. And you're so good sometimes. Sick, dude. Sometimes you're not so good, Simon. I guess that maybe that's what you're trying to tell us. A perfect approach by Hannum. It's incredible that when you throw this good of a tee shot, like Austin and McBeth just did, the approach almost looks too easy. And that's just all credited to how good of a drive that they threw. And you got Lizotte trying to do some work from way out there near circle 2. %27% of the field finding birdies here. 59% of the field taking pars. No problems for Dickerson. Paul's telling RV stories from the road. I think he's got a new vlog. RVing with the McBeths. Oh no. So uncharacteristic miss from inside the circle by McBeth. He's talked a little bit about his putter and his confidence with his putting, and he just doesn't seem like it's there. And he's going to walk away with the par, as does Lizotte. Move over to the Savage hole, hole number 7. This is another 2-shot hole, par 4, 500 feet, and you're looking to land about here. Maybe up a little bit more, but realistically, you're looking to land on that first hump, and then you're going to have what most people will throw as a backhand turnover, maybe a forehand, but usually it's a backhand turnover to then try and get around that tree, and then you're playing uphill, elevated, pretty much the entire length of the hole, with the most drastic part being at the last half of the hole. It's a really good position by Dickerson. And a similar result, maybe a little bit shorter. You see Austin looking like he barely even threw that. Simon certainly letting off on it, playing for that position. So generally speaking, you want to push as far, if you're looking at it from that angle, you want to push as far right as possible, just to make your look a little easier here. Make your turnover shot uphill a little less extreme, but that was a great shot by Hannum. However, the harder you push to the left off the tee, the closer you bring that out of bounds into play. So that's why you see them all in the position that they are. They really want to stay away from the OB line on that left side. And Dickerson's clearly off to a great start here. 4 down through the first 6 holes. Short, leaving him an uphill tester. And here they're throwing probably 250 feet or so, but throwing it as if it feels like a 350-foot shot, and what a nasty roll away from McBeth. That rolled no less than 50 feet downhill. McBeth with the naughty disc. Made me think of air hockey. Right? Like you smack the puck and then it goes sliding away. He's probably good at that. As I said on the previous hole, very uncharacteristic miss by McBeth, this time from Dickerson. And this is Simon to try and save his par. So a little bit of struggles on the green here. We'll see if Austin can make up for the group. Oh no. Oh, and really just letting things slip away there a little bit. And I stand corrected. Simon actually took the double bogey. I think he had went out of bounds on his second shot. Wow, these guys not helping the average. Came in as the 9th most difficult, and even more so for this card. So we're going to go downhill, 64 feet of it, in fact, to hole number 8, which is completely blind off the tee and plays into a very protected green that then also is on a slope. So there's a little bit of everything on this hole. You're really just trying to pick a spot in the sky and throw to it. And then you listen up. Okay, so that comes in a little bit short, but might give Dickerson a look at the green. .462, and at most this plays, I would say probably .350.
Sound good.
Hannum said it sounds good. He heard it hitting the trees, so that usually means you're at least somewhere near the putting green. And McBeth with a pretty successful shot. This comes in as the 13th most difficult hole. 27% of the field taking birdies. And very, very difficult hole, not only to throw, but also to film. As Hannum's birdie attempt is just off the mark. This is Dickerson. He is outside the circle, so he's looking at almost 40 feet. Count it. So McBeth is not far from where Hannum landed, which is left side of the pin. Looks to be just past it, but definitely some obstruction over there. Wow, so around the tree. Solid straddle putt for the birdie. And Hannum back to back. Just, dare I use the word again, uncharacteristic. We never really see Austin with any kind of putting struggles. So the last two holes, a couple of short ones that have cost him. A little bit frustrated. We'll see how he can recover from that. Thank you to all the spotters and volunteers out there. We move over to Hole number 9, 8th most difficult, averaging 2.96. You need to come up this gap now. Rollers have become quite popular. We didn't see nearly as many of them last year as we're seeing this year. And it seems like that is one of the main plays to try and get to this pin. Otherwise, you just need to throw a rocket that splits the trees there that you saw in the drone preview. 428 definitely plays considerably longer than that. And I like where he laid that down. That may have actually gone a little too straight. So we'll see if he's in that bush or if he's got a good look from there. Again, Dickerson now at 5 under through 8 holes, as he started at 9. Kind of slow for the rest of the group, though. Yeah, and that did not hook up or curl fast enough. And it's kind of surprising to me, only because I've watched McBeth throw the laser there a couple of times, at least last year and the year before. And that didn't stand up and curl fast enough for Lizotte either. And Hannum watching the other shots. Maybe got a little read from there. Solid shot. So you find McBeth at maybe the edge of circle 2 or just inside of it. The white flags are circle 1. And he didn't really like it right out of his hand, and Simon's going to have to reach into his bag of tricks here as he just pitches out.
As always.
Austin a little frustrated. McBeth maybe a little frustrated as well, feeling like this round is not doing much for him, and that is a phenomenal park job that just came up there by Chris Dickerson. Here's a word from the DGPT. Of course, dgpt.com/shop. Move over to hole 10, 370 feet. We also saw the elevation change as this is uphill. Little sloping indicators thanks to Mo. And fair or not, this hole is possibly most famous for being the one hole that Paul McBeth did not birdie during that 18 under that he shot here a few years ago. There's just so much to do on this hole. Not only do you need to have the right amount of turn, as we're watching from Chris Dickerson, but then it also needs to sit down. And in that case, he hits near the basket. It kind of rolls out a little bit. But depending on how sharp of an angle you're coming in with, you may get a hit and then a kind of a roll around, or just like we saw by Dickerson. Or if it's flattening out, you want it to come in and just hit and land gently or softly. As the Fugees would say, killing me softly. Some of you will get that reference. And McBeth
Cool, man.
just overpowering, coming in short, not really giving that one a chance. And that's what I mean by, we'll say, softly. Just feels like it's just kind of drifting in on that huge turnover. I haven't asked one of the players, but at 370 with the turnover that's required, I've got to imagine they feel like they're putting a full 450 worth of power into that shot. Little tree love, keeping McBeth a few feet closer. And this can be really dangerous. This is where you need to be fully committed and hopefully execute. Full commitment there by Austin. I give him that. Unfortunately, just when you thought it was going to sit down, it then gets up and runs away from him. And that is heartbreaking. There's just no other word. Hits the basket. He's committed to running for it. You know, he could try and lay up, but he was committed to running at it. And then gets just an even... I don't know when the last time you see someone throw. Their next throw is further away. And then their next throw is even yet farther away, I think is the proper term. Let's hope Austin can recover. He's had a few putting struggles already. And then comparatively, you look at that, hits the side of the basket, sits down for him. You know, he's going to walk away maybe even almost relieved after just seeing what happened to Austin. And this is C-Dick, Chris Dickerson. Incredible.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And this coming in as the second most difficult hole on the course, averaging 3.12. We'll see the numbers that back that up. The double bogey, the par, the other par, and then the lone birdie in the card by Chris Dickerson. But we're going to move over to hole number 11. We're going to play straight uphill again. We just flew over there, the FPOT. And this comes in as the fifth most difficult, 358 feet. At least 400 feet of power is going to be required if you want to be next to the pin. I'm going to guess even more than that, actually. And Chris Dickerson here just off to a really, really good start. As actually we're at a little more than the halfway point. That needed to be a little bit tighter. He's asking for it to get lucky. You don't see too much fight through that right side. %75% of the field taking pars here. 13 below par and 12 above par. And McBeth also keeps that one out high and right. Let's see if Simon makes an adjustment. He's high and right as well. And again, thankfully, at least kicks right into the fairway. And this is a combination of both just trust and power. To think about throwing that forehand uphill on that turnover line. And Austin's a little bit short with it, but that's just incredible. Finds himself outside of circle 2. Just a few feet from teammate Paul McBeth. He was scolding his kneecap. I'm not sure what that did. And Simon seemingly taking a moment, either just collect his thoughts. Okay, we'll figure out how he's going to dial in for the birdie. I wouldn't think there'd be any hesitation about him running at it, worried about any kind of hit or roll away necessarily. But apparently he just needed the extra moment to collect his birdie thoughts. Walks away so cool. And it was tough to tell just how far Dickerson made it up the fairway after you heard him, you know, head right through the cabbage, so to speak, or the shul on that right side. And looks like he's even got a lane. A solid run as he extends all the way to the pin. So, fifth most difficult hole, as we mentioned. We see the one birdie by Lizotte. Looks like we're going to see a handful of pars. And because there are no fans that are allowed on the course as part of the phase one, some people would just hang out by the roadside. They'd socially distance. They were not technically any part of the event. They were just people that came by that wanted to check things out. And we see we have a 70-foot drop as we move from left to right here on hole number 12. I got to admit, when I played in 2000 World Championships, that was one of the first times we ever saw the Toboggan Course in play, and this is one of the holes that I distinctly recalled seeing, or a slight variation of this. But this hole, this shot, was probably the most memorable hole that I can think of from playing here almost exactly 20 years ago. Here's Dickerson. I love the forehand that's coming in hot at our cameraman Dylan. And that's deep. He missed the mouth where you really need to make the turn. This average 3.1, with just 10% of the field finding birdies here. McBeth displeased with his effort. And just so effortless as you watch that throw by Hannum. Oh, and he is a little wide, but still hits the mouth, and that's going to be a great looking shot for Hannum. McBeth outstretched, that's a really tough shot when you're throwing across your body like that. Just to be able to generate the right amount of power and then still hit your line of release is more challenging than you think it is. And we see a pitch up by Lizotte. Thinking about the temperatures out there and what these guys are playing in, it's been really light winds, almost none to speak of during rounds 1 or round 2 here. And the temperatures are surprisingly cooler than what we've had for the last few events. The Dynamic Disc Open was kind of sweltering. The Preserve was sweltering. And McBeth's going to do a little bit of work to save his par. But it's warm out. It's mid-80s. But the humidity broke just a few days earlier. We see Hannum maintaining his balance. So 85 degrees with a light wind and low humidity is actually quite the reprieve that we've had here at this event so far. And Dickerson will walk away with the par, the third most difficult hole on the course. We move over to hole number 13, the famous one. If you've watched any YouTube videos or original Discraft videos in terms of tutorials, this is the hill you see, one of the toboggan runs. Comes in as one of the easiest holes on the course. This is a par 4, 17th most difficult, 31% of the field finding birdie here. And it's a stark contrast in the sense of hole 2, which played straight uphill, or had a flattened area and then went uphill. However, the fairway is just 10 times bigger. So Simon trying to
Weakest throw of all time.
trying to bite off a little bit more there. He claims it's the weakest throw of all time. I don't know if you guys would agree with that in the comments, but that's what he said. Exactly. Maybe you'd like to be a few feet right of that, possibly, but that's a great shot. And McBeth also displeased with that. That really had the right amount of speed, but as you can see, came in just a bit high. He clipped some of the overhanging branches that protect the green, and he still finds himself just outside the circle. And McBeth, on the other hand, throwing it too low, almost has the same result. And Chris says, I've got this. And not knowing just how perfect that was, it hits off the DGPT pole koozie. That's trademarked. So McBeth, on one of the easier holes out here, not able to capitalize, and we'll see if that maybe sparks up the Hannum putter. No problems for Dickerson and Lizotte. As I mentioned, Paul McBeth. He's actually going to be the lone par in the group. Let me know in the comments, as this comes in as the 17th easiest hole. Do you feel like this is one you would get? I feel like there's a lot of different skill levels. You need some power. You need a little bit of accuracy and a little bit of power. Could you walk away with the birdie there? Put it in the comments. Let me know. Tell me your internet distance if you want to. 375 feet for hole 14, downhill and to the left. As you see the pin to the sitting atop the elevated structure. Huge shout out to Miles over at Paragon, one of the many Disc Golf Pro Tour supporters out here. And that is a hard job. So we move from the second easiest hole on the course to now this being the third easiest hole on the course, averaging 2.74, about a quarter stroke below par. Just a matter of how much skip are you going to get. If you come in low and flat like we saw by Dickerson and it doesn't hit anything, there's a good chance it get hit by the basket or anywhere on the green and then still skip 20 or 30 feet past. And that puts McBeth right there on the dance floor. Just tickling the front side chain. Not enough for Simon to the elevated pin, but Chris Dickerson Now has that same tree on his left as opposed to Simon's right.
Thank you.
With a stepper from outside the circle. And Dickerson keeps it rolling. Again, he started at 9 under. He's at 18 now. Some quick math will tell you that's 9 under in 14 holes. And
How was yours up better than mine? Huh? How was I went around. What? You went through this? No, my shot was perfect. I went backside. You think, or you're sure?
strategy talk. All right, we move over to hole number 15. Now we go to the easiest, quote unquote, easiest hole on the course. 3.66. This averages a third of a stroke below par, and which is incredible because we have multiple hills. We have OB, and it's a 567 foot par 4. And I'll go ahead and say I don't think that tree kick hurt Austin. I think it kept him a little bit more center fairway. And Dickerson's okay with that. %48% of the field birdieing this hole. So this, if there's ever a must-get birdie, it seems like this would be it. That is a very aggressive line by McBeth. And you see most players are really just trying to play to a position on the top of that hill or somewhere along the hillside to then give them a good look at the pin. And then same thing I said way back on hole 4 perhaps, where it feels like you want to come in just a bit short, flat, and then let it skip up the extra 5 or 10 feet to the pin.
Oh, good break too? Sweet.
Simon with his own commentary. Yeah, and with Austin hitting the tree, and if it had it moved another 15, 20 feet to the right, it clearly wouldn't have been terrible. But I don't think that kick to where he landed there necessarily hurt him at all. It's a Simon uphill. Here's another one of those shots where you just have to be fully committed to whatever it is you're doing. Just tickles the bottom of the basket as Austin finds himself right at circle 1. I don't think I've given enough shout-outs yet. Solid putt for birdie. Dylan and Dustin, like I said, hustling around on the course, first and foremost. Disc Golf Pro Tour, Discraft, all of the sponsors and supporters of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Just absolutely incredible as we see all of these various assets out on the course, the banners and the OB walls and the non-OB walls and elevated baskets, just so many incredible supporters and sponsors of the Disc Golf Pro Tour and, of course, Disc Golf Network. And we're just hoping that everybody's enjoying as much coverage as being put out for you guys. Live action on the Disc Golf Network. Jomez giving you, of course, post-production action always the next day. GK Pro with the women. That's coming out the next day. I'm glad to bring you some bonus footage. I realize it's not necessarily next day, but hopefully you still enjoy the action. And it's been incredible, and I don't think enough accolades are thrown around at all the people it takes to make everything happen, including the entire Disc Golf Pro Tour staff and crew as well. And we're going to move over to hole 16. Comes in as the 15th most difficult. averaging 2.75. So this stretch, this is really a 4-hole stretch. I'm doing some math, folks. We had the second easiest, the first easiest, the third easiest. Now I think the fourth easiest. These 4 holes in a row statistically seem like birdie alley, and no putting required there for Hannum. So late in the round, looks like a really good time to pick up a couple of birdies here. Dickerson is 10 down through 15 played. Another wall supporter and sponsor, OTB Discs, along with the Windjammers Club. Additional supporters that I have been Aguapo Baskets and Disc Baron. All my Patreon subscribers. Can't say it enough. Thank you, guys. Little stand-up shot by Lizotte there. Looks like he might have been off his line a little bit, although the flight was beautiful. Dickerson's outside of circle 2, so he's got to be at least 70 feet away. Exactly 33% of the field taking birdies here. Awkward loft stance. Uh-oh. The puck's off the table. The air hockey puck. And of course, thank you to UDisc and UDisc Live. I continue to rattle off these stats. I didn't make any of them up. I just looked at UDisc. You see a little deflation, or can maybe feel a little deflation in the card here. I suppose as the 4th easiest hole, a little painful to let it slip past you. Hannum still parked, so he's going to pick up the lone birdie. That birdie pushes him to 13 under, which is 4 under for the round. Lizotte is 2 under. Correction, 3 under, and McBeth, who also I believe started at 7, is 5 under. So seemingly kind of a lackluster round there. Elevation change is, at first it dips down 23 feet, and then eventually we go back up 26 feet. So I don't know. It's a net of 3. It definitely does not feel like it as you're traversing across hole number 17, which is a full 755 feet, a par 4. Nearly perfect. I don't have another more descriptive word for that. That looked like a great shot there by Austin. And Dickerson putting a move on it, but too straight without enough hyzer. Seemed like a little extra aggression there, possibly by McBeth, trying to make a late round push here, as neither of these first 2 rounds have really gone his way. And Simon just smashing And we got the spotter running it down, checking out the validity of inbounds or otherwise. And Chris with a standstill. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I'm gonna spoil it. That may be one of the most impressive shots we could see this entire weekend. That standstill with his back to the basket, which you'd call maybe a patent pending, and then to throw it with that much power uphill and that much accuracy, just buzzing past the basket. I can't say enough about that shot. As McBeth's standstill comes in short. This is Hannum for birdie. This is the 10th most difficult hole on the course, averaging 3.91. And I know I spoke of it earlier, but it seems very apparent that McBeth is struggling with the putter. As he said, it may be just a lack of confidence from within. We've seen him miss some very, very uncharacteristic putts here throughout this round. And Dickerson just trying to do his thing. Wow. That is a hard-working birdie. Simon picks up the birdie as well. And then Hannum and McBeth both with the par. So we move over to the 18th and final hole. Plays uphill 52 feet. Just incredibly tough. You've got this, you know, a short cut roller may roll out of bounds. You hang out an Anheuser that doesn't come back. You're out of bounds. You throw a turnover that flexes back out at the end and you're out of bounds. But then if you pull it in tight and right, you're going to find nasty shoal and rough and trees with not a real good look at getting up and down. I'm actually kind of surprised this doesn't play more difficult than just the 7th most difficult. And it somehow still averaged 2.99. Dickerson trying to cap off his round with an aggressive roller there that comes up short. So that's what I'd like to know. Not only did I ask you earlier, I think if you would birdie hole 13, if you think you would, what would you be throwing here? That's also what I'd like to know. And I would throw whatever Hannum just did. But that's what I want to know. Leave it in the comments. That'll make you eligible for a giveaway. I keep giving away discs. And that, again, in part, thanks to my Patreon supporters. But everyone is eligible. Please like it, share it, all that stuff. Smash the like button, as they say. Not the tree. Sit down. Sit down. And that wasn't even a scenario I talked about, is trying to throw the roller hitting the tree and then flirting with the OB. But that's what I'd like to know, is what are you throwing here? Is this a forehand approach or drive for you? Is this a backhand? Are you laying up just to try and put yourself in position? And Chris, he's struggling to move up that right side of the fairway. Let's see Simon at least 100 feet from the pin. I was just about to say, good grunt, Simon, and he wanted to emphasize it a little on his own. I'm good with that. So now Dickerson, after such a clean and nearly flawless round, he's threatening his bogey-free round here. And unfortunately, it looks like that might be one.
My spot right there.
McBeth saying that high left side. Feels like sometimes some of them push out a little bit for him. And Austin doesn't close it out either. Oh, no. That's heartbreaking after such a great drive. He, too, may be struggling a little bit with the putter confidence. But I got to say one last time, thank you to Dustin. Thank you to Dylan. Thank you to all 4 of the card members who were good with these 2 guys out there getting the action. Thanks to the Disc Golf Pro Tour and our title sponsor, of course, in Discraft for hosting the event. And we look forward to seeing you in round 3. Got more bonus coverage. I won't give you any spoilers, but it's all bonus coverage, and I hope you're enjoying it. And whether you enjoy it or not, our Patreon subscriptions are what get us this bonus action. And if I could find some friends, I'd get a co-commentator. Oh, you're still here? Well, there should be a link, maybe here or here. Subscribe, follow along, check out the playlist, do what you got to do. Thanks for joining.